Hello and welcome to the first instalment of Questions to Candidates. My name is James Mitchell and I am the Chair of Elections Committee. I'm also joined by the outgoing Community Officer, Freya Jackson. If you require closed captions, please activate it through Teams. You can also re-watch this online later. We shall be asking the candidates questions on both their manifestos and broader issues that affect higher education. All of you are invited to submit questions in the Q&A pane, and we will put forward a selection of these at the end. First up are our postgraduate officer candidates, Tony Chung and Sid Singh, and afterwards we will move on to the community officer candidates. Tony, would you please start with your opening statement?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. This is Tony. I'm a data science postgraduate, and I'm currently running for postgraduate officers. There are 4 areas that I want to focus. It's about mental health support, academic development, and then the campus experience, and also to promote the importance of diversities. Nice to meet you all. Yep.
Thank you. Now to meet our other candidate, Sid.
Hi everyone, I'm Sid. I'm currently doing Masters in Management and I'm currently also working as the Hall Captain of Thornbank Gardens and I'm running as the Postgraduate Officer. I want to focus on key 4 areas that includes like improving mental health, improving sustainability at the campus, making experience of everyone better at the university, and also I want to work on mental health after the COVID life. Thank you.
Thank you both. So our first question is, do you have a position on the current NUS referendum? Tony, would you like to answer first?
Oh, so you mean what's my positions on the referendum, right?
Yes, indeed. Do you are you an advocate of either way?
Yeah. Actually, I have. I support the referendum to because the referendum is about the support to be cooperate in the national union. So I support for that. Yeah.
So you would very much be on the side of remaining affiliated.
Yeah, because my principles is to be a radical communications and to how to have a stronger bonding with other societies and other communities. So I feel like we can. My personal advice was this: who support for that to remain here. Yeah.
Thank you. And Sid, what do you think?
I'm kind of in the middle because I think that like if it continues to remain affiliated with NUS, then it could involve like politics at a larger level. But I also think like if university remains the SU with the SU student union, then it could benefit and it could take like anonymous decisions on its own. So I think that could also help the university. So I'm kind of in the middle. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Now our next question is, what do you think will be the biggest challenge for you personally in this role if you're voted in? Sid, what do you think?
For me personally, it would be sustainability and improving the accommodation life for postgraduate students, because it's like quite expensive changing the postgraduate accommodations, because some have bathtubs, some don't, removing them and like improving and like getting everybody on the same page, because we have all the accommodations in the city. So it would be quite hard, and like teaming up in my manifesto I have a point of partnering up with various cycle vendors in the city and providing discount cycles at a discounted rate. So that could be quite hard, but I'm willing to work towards that.
Indeed, thank you. And Tony, how about you?
I would say the biggest challenge. There's 2 things. The first thing I want is about career development, because of the Brexit, also the pandemic, we can see the youth unemployment rate is roughly 14 to 15%. So I guess I want to set up a team to focusing on career development, because the existing career service is a generic, is a audience for all undergraduate and postgraduate. So as a postgraduate officers, I want to have focus on some technical interviews or industrial update for our postgraduate to show that we are competitive and to be productive in the labor force. And second point is the mental health supports, because the existing counseling sessions, you take 3 to 4 weeks to get a spot to talk with the counselor. So I would like to streamline the process and also do it digitally to ensure that the postgraduates can mentally healthy during the intensive program.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. And sort of moving on from that, what do you think the priority for the SU should be going forward in light of COVID-19 and the new normal? Tony, what do you think?
I would say the first priorities on the new normal or the pandemic is about the BAF plan approach. How can we optimize the academic experience of using a BAF plan approach? Because in the past few months, we got lots of ups and downs about the lockdowns or the in-person teachings and also the online learning. So the accessibilities and also the communications need to be more transparent, be more agile, and how to let everyone still learn at the optimal level during the new BAF plan approach. So that might be the first first approach or first priority for SU to do.
Thank you. And Sis, how about you?
For me personally, I think it should be about mental health, because COVID has affected like everybody. Like most of us are used to, living in rooms, not going out. So it could be quite hard for the SU to, integrate with that. Some people might not want to come out even after the post-COVID life. So maybe SU can organize some socials, like games with like Among Us or something to help the people ease into it, after the post-COVID life. Yeah.
Thank you. 2 very important points.
Yeah.
Cool. Hi both. I'm going to ask you guys a few questions now, more specifically to the role. So PGT home students have a relatively low satisfaction compared with PGT international students. How would you like to support those students? We'll have Sid first.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat that question?
Yeah, that's right.
So sorry.
I'm sorry, I'll take my headphones off. Can you guys hear me now?
The echo. That's
yeah, it's echoing.
I think James, you're on mute or you're sound.
I'll repeat that for Fred. This year has been very tough for all students, but what do you think will be the biggest issues for PGTs and doctoral students in particular, seeing as they often have quite a low satisfaction?
Yeah. Personally, I think it would be better, to include them in all the social activities, because this was my first year here at University of Bath, and I didn't get to meet, any postgraduate student at, freshers and everything else. So I felt like they weren't included in like most of the things. Also, like that also includes MBA students. So it would be better if socials were, organized like to include everybody. Yeah.
Okay, and how about you, Tony?
Yeah. So I would say the challenge or we can see a low satisfaction for PGT students for this academic year, basically because of the program is really intensive, but without support to familiarize themselves really quick. Because before the pandemic, we all talking about the fresher week. How can we kickstart our first year and also the final year for the postgraduate, because most of us would just spend a year here. So I would say the kind of lack of support or transformations on how can we get a quick win on the start is the most painful part for PGT students. So in my manifesto, I suggest to have a pre-semester program for the newly joined postgraduate to let them familiarize the UK culture, the Bath communities, and also all the basic rules and regulations or the guidelines in the campus. So that will help them to more familiarize, more blend in the community. So that's the approach that we can boost up the academic experience and also improve their satisfactions.
Thank you very much, Tony.
I think if I talk.
So we've got another question here. Our next question is, what do you think the activities for postgraduates should be separate from those for undergraduates? Or do you think it would be better to try and integrate the activity programs for both postgrads and undergrads?
I think it would be better to integrate both the programs, because the postgrads are like postgrads have a high number of international students, so they want to experience the culture of the UK and feel, like at home. So I think it would be quite better if undergraduates and postgrads had similar activities. Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah, I agree with Sid. We should, my personal view is integrate with undergraduate and postgraduate, because, well, both of us are promoting the importance of diversities, right? No matter from where you're from, what academic background you are. So actively interact with cross department or cross academic level would be a great approach. I will also recommend some theme-based events for them to promote their culture, the local culture, and also their international from different parts of the world to express their opinion and try to interact more. So I agree to integrate. Yeah.
Thank you. So currently there are quite limited specific opportunities for postgraduates to engage in national student politics. Do you think this is a problem? And do you think postgraduates need more representation nationally?
I believe that postgraduate students need more representation, because there are some problems which are specific to postgraduate students, which include international students as well as European students, especially after Brexit. There's like problem of funding and like other things. So I think these problems would be better addressed if it was represented nationally.
Tony, what would you say to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course, we need more representations, but I would say the quick win strategy is to be actively communicate and promote what's about the UK politics, or what's the social issue happening in our community in UK, because we all know that the postgraduate program is way more intense than undergraduate course. So I would say the first step, of course we need representations, but what is the first step is to actively communicate and promote what's going on, to let the postgraduate know what's happening, and then next stage we can think about a way to increase their representations, and then try to bring up more discussions on that.
Thank you. And Sid, we've got some questions on your manifesto now. Sid,
sure.
what would you do to help foster a better sense of community within the doctoral college?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that question?
What would you do to help foster a better sense of community within the doctoral college?
Okay. So I'm planning to have more socials specific to the postgrad students rather than having just a fresher party and everything. Some postgrad students, like I feel that because I met some of the postgrad students here in the city and they feel quite excluded. So it would be quite better if they got to meet, people from the university, like fresher captains and everything. It would be better if university reached out more to them to feel them, quite at home. And also if I'd like to work on the feedback received by everybody, like informal feedback would be kind of also necessary to work on the problems they have. Yeah.
And Tony, we've got one here for you. The SU currently has an International Students Executive Committee and various diversity groups. Do you think these systems can be improved to work with postgraduate students more?
Yeah, absolutely. My working principle is to try to be more agile and more flexible and more efficient. I would say, yeah, we got a lot of committees specializing on different even interest areas, but we still lack of the interactions among them and try to have a coordinations between them. So, and I always want more interactions between the postgraduates and the undergraduate within the society or among them. So, yes, I absolutely think we should have more interactions for postgraduates on these activities.
Okay, thank you very much. So questions here for both of you. What is the one area of the postgraduate officer role that you think you want to find out more about? Tony, do you want to take us up first?
So do you mean that being an officer is what our first thing to want to know more about the role, or what?
Yes. Yes, which is the sort of area that you would like to find out more and hopefully do something with?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that I want to do is about how to improve the academic experience. That's my first priority to do that. Yeah, because there's we as a postgraduates, they invest a lot of money and resources on the program. We understand that the pandemic pushed us in a new normal to learn, but as a faculty rep and also an international student study postgraduate, I feel like there's a lot of areas that we can improve to make a better academic experience, including the feedback system, the accessibilities, and the course design. So I would say we understand that it's really tough for us to do the new normal, but as a postgraduate officers, I want to push more initiative to make all the students feeling comfortable to learn online, and they feel like the whole learning experience is maybe better than only strictly face-to-face academic experience.
Well, thank you very much for your views there. And Sid, what do you think? What would be your area that you want to find out more about?
Yeah, I completely agree with Tony. For me, the two key focus points are sustainability and academics. I feel that I want to work towards sustainability because we can clearly see the environment changing, and it would be quite good. I want to know how I can work towards that, helping to make the university go green. And also, I believe that maybe the pandemic won't end even after this semester or something. So I want to improve on that, making the online classes better, improving the bath plan in every single way, getting the feedbacks from both the students and the staff. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Two very important areas there to work on.
Thank you,
so
Jim.
now we're hoping that we have some questions from the audience. So throughout this, we invite you to send in some of your questions, and you can continue to do this for the next role as well. So our first one up here is what is your stand on the funding extension for all doctoral students? Sid, do you want to have a think of that one?
No, I don't have enough knowledge to comment on that, I'm afraid. Yeah, so sorry for that.
But it's certainly something you'd like to find out more about, and certainly work on.
I should find out more about this. Yeah.
And how about you, Tony?
Yeah, my stand on funding extensions on all doctoral extensions, I support on that. Yeah, I support on that. I would say two things that why I want to elaborate on how can we improve that is too many paperwork, still too many paperwork on apply for extensions. You have to apply the extensions, the process, department, the school, and probably the sponsorship, the organizations, the body. Too many paperwork. How can we do it digitally and more interactive? That's the first point. And the second point is lack of communications. Again, much information is on the website, different website. Again, no consolidations. How can we ensure that all the doctoral students are well notified about the deadline, the key milestones, and all the updates because of the pandemic, lockdown policies, any changes? We don't have a single source of truth on doing that. That's why I support on that. And then there's two reasons behind that. And if I'm the postgraduate officers, I'll figure out how to improve on these two particular areas.
Oh, thank you very much. And now we've got one on mental health. And the person here has asked, do you think there's a difference between the causes of mental health issues for undergraduates and postgraduates?
Yeah, I believe there's a difference because undergraduates have just graduated from their and their school, and they are just moving into the university life, while postgrads have already been into the university once before, and sometimes they have even the work experience. So these things are like completely different for them. The postgrads are used to working, at the university, mingling with friends. For some undergrads, it can be quite difficult, and at the same time postgrads might feel excluded because they don't have they are moving again into the university life from their work. So both of things are quite different, I believe. Yeah.
And Tony, would you agree with that, or do you think there's another primary cause for mental health issues in postgraduates?
I would say different courses or different primary course among postgrad undergrads. The postgrad, actually, why I always say 3 weeks waiting time for too long for sections, because I actually applied for that in early October about the mental health support. And then the reason is different. Postgraduate is about the intensity of the course and also the pressures on getting the career development on that, because we just have a year, especially for international students, because they are from foreign countries in the UK, and then they have to study and then also get all the career directions on that. But on the flip side, undergraduates are a little bit different because they have 4 years. They are more focused on personal development or how to shape their personality or how to handle different kinds of uncertainty or pressure first time during their university experience. So it's different. So I would say the intensities, the program, or especially for international students, are one of the primary causes for mental health issues.
Thank you. We've got one here asking, how would you help support research students? Are there any specific policies that you think would benefit these students? Sid, do you want to take us up on that one?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I believe that more funding opportunities for research students could help us. University maybe can diversify its range of research areas, which it's lacking in. Yeah. So I just have my take on that. It's like.
Yeah. And how about you, Tony? Is there anything specific you could do if you were successful?
Yeah. Obviously, funding. Sid already elaborate on that, so I don't elaborate on that. The second reason is that I feel the pain point of the research students are facing right now is doing their research with interviews or some laboratory experiment or some questionnaires. That because many doctor students, they send email to ask me to do the survey for them, and they say originally pre-pandemic they have book a classroom, have an in-class question interview sessions with all the students to ask their opinion on that. But now they are lacking of these kind of resources. Yes. During the lockdown. So how can we have clear communications to let the research student know what they can do, what they cannot do because of the limitations of the lockdown or some social distance measure? And the second is ensure that they can still deliver what they have to deliver to do their research. That's the things that I really want to push.
Thank you very much. And now, last of all, we've got a quick question that could you please answer in 30 seconds, both of you. If you could change one thing at university, unlimited by resource or barriers, what would you do? Tony, do you want to answer first?
So if you say that, so I would think promote diversities more because we discussed about the curriculum decolonization. So I want to embrace the diversity culture to let everyone know we are a diversity campus and we'll work for that and to create a bigger impact to the community. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And Sid, how about you?
Yeah, I want to promote mental health and sustainability by organizing, pet de-stressing sessions with pets, because who doesn't love pets, right? So these would be my key focus points. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. Now, hopefully you both have a closing statement. Tony, do you want to give yours first?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to the sessions. And my votes for Tony, and my four priorities to be academic development, mental health supports, career development, and also the promote diversities. Yep. Thank you.
And you, Sid, what would you like to add finally?
Yeah, first of all, thank you all for your questions and inviting me here to join you guys. So if I get elected, I'm completely willing to work towards, all four of my priorities, and on any feedback that I get from any of the students, whether they are postgrads, PGT, or undergrads. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you both for attending today and answering our questions. And I'm sure if students have any more, they can get in touch with you through social media and the usual channels. Thank you both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Goodbye. And now we move on to our community officer candidates. We are joined by Helene Mays and Meg Crossman. So, Helene, would you please start with your opening statement?
Hi everyone, I'm Helene, a final year international management student. I have a lot of points on my manifesto that I would love to cover next year if elected, but mostly I kind of just want to get across my passion and excitement, as you can probably tell from how big I'm smiling all the time, to make everyone feel like part of the Bath community, do things like reduce loneliness and make everyone feel included and loved. And most importantly, amplify your voices, not just mine. I think everyone's kind of done hearing me talk from now on.
Thank you. And Meg, would you now introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, good morning or good afternoon if you're not watching live. I'm Meg, I'm a master's student studying applied clinical psychology, and I also studied my undergrad here. So I've been quite heavily involved in my time at university, so I'm currently co-chair of Nightline, Equality and Diversity Committee rep, an NUS delegate, and I was a Fresh Speak event manager last year and chair of Bath Minervas. So my manifesto is based around my experience in the SU, so I want to prioritise student mental health, tackle student loneliness, support and encourage diversity, and improve awareness of abuse and improve support for victims. But I have a lot of other ideas as well.
Brilliant, thank you both. Right then, we're going to go straight on to the questions that we've been asking all of the candidates. Do you have a position on the current NUS referendum? Yes, certainly, take us away.
Okay, so I am an NUS delegate, and I do believe that the NUS does some really fantastic work and has some really fantastic campaigns, particularly around race. So I really support the work they do about decolonising the curriculum and closing black attainment gap. And there's a reason that a huge number of higher education and further education SUs are part of NUS. But the NUS does cost, some of our block grant as an SU, and the SU is currently experiencing financial difficulties. So I think in that sense, there's an argument to disaffiliate. But as an NUS delegate, I really do strongly believe that the work NUS does is so important. And yeah, I think the thing I believe in most is that students should read up on the issue and make an informed decision when voting in the referendum. But I think if we do disaffiliate, I think I would love to see the money being put into our student groups, particularly our diversity and support groups.
Okay, thank you. And Helene, would you agree with that, or do you fall more strongly on either side?
Oh, I'm not an NUS delegate, but I voted to leave solely because of the financial difficulties after COVID. I think that money can definitely be used to support a lot of, the sports clubs and societies and a lot of other initiatives that will, in the short run, improve, the well-being and mental health of our students and overall student experience. But I'm definitely a strong believer in, if the students believe that we should stay, I'm in full support of the students, whatever they think is best for, the SU. I'm in full support of that. I can definitely put my ideas aside for them.
Well, thank you very much. And also, what do you think would be the biggest challenge for you personally if you were voted into this role? And Helene, what would you say?
Oh, that's a good question. I think personally, I'm not a big fan of being in the spotlight. So I like to be, working on the sidelines, making other people, putting other people in the spotlight. So I think that would be quite a challenge for me. But with this whole campaign, it's been so amazing so far, and I've gotten a lot of amazing support. So it's kind of giving me a boost. Okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can.
Oh, indeed. And how about you, Meg?
So I think the community officer role is so broad and there are so many different areas to tackle every single day. I have a massive tendency to overcommit and do a million different things at once and be really, really busy. And I think I feel so passionately about making the changes that are part of the community officer role that I think I would probably just go all guns blazing and try and tackle everything at once. And yeah, I think, I mean, it shows passion, but I think, yeah, that's probably my biggest concern.
Overreaching. Well, thank you. And now, what do you think would be the priority of the SU in light of COVID-19 and changing to a new normal? Meg, what do you think?
I mean, it's very, very difficult to pick one. I think there's a lot, like transitioning out of COVID, I think there's going to be a lot of things that need to be addressed. I think the main one that is most relevant to most students is loneliness. I think people are going to be really keen to interact with people outside of their household after COVID. And I think making sure that there's a way to do that that is both engaging and safe. So I think I don't want the SU to, as soon as everything opens, just go like all in-person events, because some students won't feel comfortable doing that. I want to make sure that there's virtual events going on as well. But yeah, making sure that loneliness is tackled, students can meet others from outside their household safely and with a variety of events that are inclusive will be, I think, quite a big thing. But yeah, there's a lot of other things that will be important as well.
Yeah, and how about you, Helene? Do you agree, or do you have something different that they should be focusing on?
No, I agree with Meg. I think kind of the nice side of being a community officer is that you kind of have a remit over a lot of things, and you know, you're involved in all the different officer roles as well a little bit, like sports, societies, postgrads as well. So I think there is a lot to tackle. I think generally this, like building a sense of community again, like this year a lot of people have spent a lot of time inside, not really seeing anyone, even their friends haven't seen them in ages.
And what do you think will be the biggest challenge for building back the student community?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge might be getting the students to want to do it. I think now, you know, a lot of people are a bit apprehensive and have kind of shut themselves in for, you know, almost a year and a half now. And I know a lot of people are very keen to get out there, but, you know, this also relates to a lot of anxiety towards going back to, you know, like a complete normal and getting back to seeing a lot of people. I think that might be one of the things to tackle as well. So like slowly bring back events and reintroduce people in like smaller groups, and then, you know, can start to look into bigger events, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we've got a question here on quite a relevant topic. So there's been an increase of coverage concerning freedom of speech in students' unions and universities. How do you think the SU should approach this issue? And how important do you feel that this is to the student community? Would you like to go first, Meg?
Yeah. So I believe that everyone has a right to freedom of speech, obviously, but I think the right to freedom of from prejudice is more important. I fully support freedom of speech, but as long as it's not violating the rights of students and discriminating at all against protected characteristics. So my opinion is very much I support freedom of speech 100%, and I want to encourage healthy, respectful, non-discriminatory debates. But I do not support freedom of speech at the expense of all students feeling safe and respected in our student body, equally to their peers. In terms of how the SU will achieve that, I know currently when student groups ask for an external speaker to come and speak at their events, there is a screening process whereby they're kind of background checked against anything that is discriminatory in the past. I want to continue that because I think that is a really useful step to make sure that we're not expressing views that make anyone feel kind of underrepresented or discriminated against. But I also think working with the groups of students at the heart of these issues, as groups of students who are experiencing these difficulties, speaking to them at forums and summits regularly to hear about what they're experiencing and what they kind of want is really important to make sure that, yeah, freedom of speech does have kind of some regulations around it, and working with Debating Society to make sure there's kind of healthy debate around this.
So you talk about there of a screening process, but universities have a legal duty to facilitate freedom of speech. Do you think there could be some conflicts there?
I mean, yeah, I think that, I mean, that's why it's been in the news. I think there is some conflict there. But I think that screening process is so important because I personally don't think that we should be giving a platform to people who are transphobic or who are racist. I think that is, I think if we give that a platform, we're saying that that is a view that is good to engage with. And so, yeah, I think that process is really important.
Okay, thank you. And Helene, how important do you think freedom of speech is?
I think it's super important. I think everyone has the right to their own opinion, and you know, if it might not be the one that you believe, then so be it. But they also have things that you might believe, things that they don't believe. I think everyone has the right to their own opinions, as long as it, like Meg said, as long as it doesn't, you know, hurt people and their well-being. I think how the uni can maybe overcome this or kind of work towards, you know, being a more respectful but open environment is to, I think a lot of times discrimination stuff comes from just not being educated enough into what different minorities actually feel or how they actually, like what they actually are. And there's a big thing about, you know, intersectionality, that someone is not just their race and someone's not just their like sexual preference or orientation. It's like and harassment and what they actually mean, and how to go about that. So trying to educate people on the different types of people there are and how people have different opinions. But I think it comes more from the point of understanding where someone might be coming from and like hearing their actual view on things.
And would you say that the freedom to possibly offend is a key component of freedom of speech, or do you think the two can be very much separate?
Would you be able to explain what the right to?
So some people do think that you should be allowed to say things that perhaps other people might not like or might offend them. Do you think this should be very much kept separate from freedom of speech in universities?
I think so. I think there's a very fine line between freedom of speech and, you know, offending someone with what you're saying. Trying to instill kind of a culture of respect for other people that, you know, even if that's what you believe, you don't necessarily have to go and shout it into people's faces that, you know, are on the opposite end of your belief. Yeah, I think it's a very difficult line to draw to, you know, push someone else's opinion down just to support the person who's, you know, a minority maybe. And I'm in full support of, you know, raising the voices of minorities and underrepresented groups, which is, you know, just evident by why they're called underrepresented groups. Yeah, I think we shouldn't diminish one person's opinions just because it's not what is right for the rest of the university. Just trying to, you know, instill kind of respect and understanding and making sure that if a case does happen, that someone is, you know, voicing their opinion and offends someone, that there's enough structures in place to support them and kind of come to like maybe open, like hosting open discussions about different topics, like Meg was saying. Sorry. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you very much. There's some interesting points there. So you both discussed Never OK on your manifesto. Could you give some more detail on how you would like the Never OK programme to look over the coming years?
Who do you want to go first?
Do you want to go first, Meg?
Yeah. Okay, so Never OK currently is changing to be called Be the Change, and it's going to be more around all different types of harassment, not just sexual harassment and assault, which I really support. And I don't think, I mean, 500 words in a manifesto is not a lot, so I would have wanted to write so much about this, but yeah, we don't have many words. So I fully support that 100%, and I think that's a fantastic change, and there's going to be some brilliant work around that. What I want to see is some focus on domestic abuse and unhealthy relationships and friendships, because I think that's an area where there is a real lack of understanding. So I think, yeah, so I looked up some statistics on the number of students who experience unhealthy relationships at university, and I literally couldn't find any, but I found so many around sexual assault and sexual harassment, which is obviously such an important issue, but I think there needs to be equal weight placed on domestic abuse and unhealthy relationships. There's a lot of stigma around it. So I think just yeah, getting some resources like so when you go to the bathroom in class and school, if there's something on the door that says, does your partner make you feel put down, or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells, those sorts of things, to make people aware that that might mean that their relationship is unhealthy, and signposting people to get correct support for that. But at the same time, I think there are some fantastic ideas around sexual assault and harassment and how we can combat that. So for example, Ask for Angela, I know is something the SU has been pushing for a really long time, and I really want to continue pushing for that, because so if you don't know, it's basically if you go to the bar and ask for Angela, bar staff will help you and get you a taxi and get the police if needed, if you're feeling unsafe. And I think that is such an easy thing that could be implemented. So yeah, I think there's a lot. I have so many ideas and I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, I think my main point is just pushing to be more kind of awareness on domestic abuse and improve support for victims.
Oh, thank you. And Helene, how would you take the Never OK programme forward?
Yeah, I think, like I put in my manifesto, make it bigger and stronger. So I know that this is something Freya was working on, that it's, you know, hashtag Never OK has become a bit of a joke, but I think just the fact that everybody knows about it is already a good start. So try to kind of take it back, change it to, you know, be the change. I know a lot of groups and a lot of, you know, sports and societies would want to collaborate in this, and I think creating kind of an environment that you can, you know, talk about these kind of things, educate, you know, student leaders, host regular trainings on discrimination and hate crime and sexual assault and things like that. I think a big bit of it is not just, like Meg said, not just focusing on sexual harassment, but all kinds of harassment and discrimination for all the minority groups. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. So on to our next question now. I think Freya's here to ask us.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry about that before, but I am here now. So obviously housing is a critical issue this year, and it's obviously a big part of this role. So in your opinion, what is the priority area that needs to be focused on and why? And if we start with Helene first this time.
Yeah. I think currently for the flexibility around contracts and, you know, rents, I think students have lost a bit of power in regards to what they can bargain for, because obviously the private landlords have, you know, control over what they can make the students pay and, you know, all the different things they can do. So work lobbying with the Baines Council, with private landlords, and sort of lobbying to try to get more flexible contracts for students, because I know a lot of, you know, students that are on 6-month placements, for example, they really struggle to find accommodation, and usually end up paying a lot more than they want to for it, especially in COVID times as well. A lot of people are gone, and I know a lot of people that have their house here haven't come back since the start of the year and are still paying for all their rent. So a bit more flexibility in that sense with the contracts, and also, I know it's a very ambitious goal, but trying to cap the rising rent, because I know a lot of students year on year can see the change, and, you know, a lot of people are already struggling financially and need that extra bit of support in, you know, a rent reduction. So trying to find, you know, more financial means or lobby with these landlords to try and show them the benefit in limiting the rent.
That's great, thank you. And over to you, Meg.
So yeah, I mean, similar to Helene, I want to support students in private accommodation in negotiating flexible contracts, not only for now but for next year, because I mean, hopefully everything will be all right by next year, but you know, there's a bit of uncertainty, and so having that flexibility will be really useful. In terms of on-campus accommodation, so currently the SU has secured rent rebates up until, I believe, the start of March, which is so great. But I do want to extend those rent rebates. I want to lobby to them to be extended beyond the lockdown period, so that students in on-campus accommodation don't feel like as soon as lockdown's over they have to rush back to Bath, because they're paying rent for accommodation in Bath, because I feel like that's going to increase rates of COVID and not be great for the pandemic generally. So yeah, as well as this, I think I want to push to reduce the fees for the uni guarantor scheme, so that international students can more easily get a guarantor, because currently that costs, I think it's 3.5% of your total lease to join. So if you're paying £450 a month, that's about £200 a year to get a guarantor. So in reducing the fees for that scheme means that international students won't have to pay full rent upfront as much. So I think that's really important as well.
Cool, thank you both of you. So now I've got some questions that are more specific to each of your manifestos. So the first one is for you, Meg. So on your manifesto, you say you would like to run a male mental health campaign. Would you just be able to elaborate on this a bit and what your plan would be for this and how you'd measure the effectiveness as well?
Yeah, so this idea came from, I had a conversation with the Director of Student Services and we were talking about how male students are much less likely to access support. And I'm confident that's not just because male students are absolutely fine. I know quite a lot of the recent, I think all of the recent suicides in Bath have been male students. So I want to hold workshops and discussions for male students to talk about what they're struggling with, talk about the difficulties they're facing. So the hope of that is just to kind of normalise discussions for male students around mental health, normalise males talking about their emotions to each other, and just, yeah, hopefully creating that environment where people talk about their emotions and what they're dealing with and their difficulties would be really useful. And also help me better understand the difficulties that male students are facing. I also want to create resources around how male students can approach their friends to ask kind of how they're doing, ask them if they're experiencing anything difficult, just creating discussions around mental health so that male students can support each other more. So I want to work with Student Minds to do that, because Student Minds do some fantastic support groups. I think they could do a fantastic one around male mental health. So yeah, and also just creating more avenues for male students to seek support. Just like a big campaign, basically at Never Okay in terms of how big it is.
That's great, thank you. And Helene, for you, so on your manifesto, you say you'd like to increase transparency around report and support process. How do you plan to achieve this, and what would that look like?
I think for this, a lot of students don't know when they want to report something, whether it's, big enough to report, or what the process would look like. Some people might be scared to report as fear of being outed for something that they did or saw. I think in this case it can be something as simple as just having more web pages about what's the actual process step by step. If you report, this is what you'll get, this is what we'll do for you, and have different avenues as well. So some people might prefer a bit more confidentiality, some people would prefer to go and be super involved in the whole process and be a part of that. And I think a lot of people don't know when they report, okay, what's going to happen next, okay, what is this going to lead to, how long is it going to take. So I think making sure that the staff are fully communicating that from the start as well. So as soon as you submit a complaint, you get an email about the whole entire process, so you can kind of mentally prepare yourself for that as well. And yeah, maybe as well reduce the amount of times you might have to communicate with because I know that it's very traumatic the more times you tell something, the more exposed you are to it yourself. Yeah, so kind of communicating that in a sense as well.
That's great, thank you both of you. Yeah, I'm going to hand back over to James now, I think.
Hello, thank you. So you both mentioned inclusivity and Never Okay in your manifestos, but do you think the university's priority should be in making the student experience accessible to all students, regardless of background? Helene, would you like to take us up on that first?
Yeah, I think in terms of inclusivity and diversity, there's kind of a dual relationship that you want to, prioritize the needs of underrepresented groups, make sure they feel comfortable, make sure they feel, represented and kind of that their voice is being heard, that you're taking their opinions and situations into account. But there's also a thing about, in COVID times, everyone just wants to feel a part of something, and it doesn't matter, what background you're from, what race or, sexuality. You just want to be a part of this kind of community. And I think that's why on my manifesto, I didn't put the actual words on the manifesto because I might have negative connotations, but sort of a year-long Freshers Week, essentially, in terms of just the feeling that you had in Freshers Week. So,
brilliant. Thank you very much. And Meg, what would you say?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So you both talk about inclusivity and never okay in your manifestos, but do you instead think that the university's priority should be making the student experience accessible to all students?
Yeah, I think massively. I think that should be the #1 priority. So in terms of what I would like to do, I want to have mandatory inclusivity training for all student group committees around race, around sex, around LGBT plus issues, around disability, to make sure that all of our student groups are accessible and inclusive. I also want to normalise specifying pronouns across library cards, across theme usernames. I think that, yeah, making sure the university is accessible and inclusive, I think, should be the #1 priority.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. And now we've got some questions from the audience. It's been quite popular, certainly plenty there. But we've got one from Instagram to start with. And the person asking this question is asking, how would you manage burnout within students? Have you got anything in your manifesto specifically that would help a student in this situation? Meg, do you want to take us up?
So I think there are quite a few things that could be relevant here, but in particular, to tackle loneliness, I want to do quite a lot of just some nice social events. So when I was Freshers Week event manager, I planned all the really wholesome events. So we did Cake in the Marquee, we did some Netflix parties, we did lots of just really nice things that are really easy to join, really low cost, because I know the SC is experiencing financial difficulty at the moment. So I don't want to overpromise in that respect, but yeah, I think just having nice events people can go to if they're feeling stressed is important. At the same time, I'm planning on doing weekly drop-ins as community officer, so the students can come and talk to me about the difficulties they're facing firsthand.
Brilliant. How about you, Helene?
I think burnout often can come from a lot of different sources, mostly, students feeling pressured about trying to find, a job, a placement, trying to balance their course. Also, student leaders, for example, are in positions where they take a lot of burden from the groups onto themselves. And I know a lot of students are very ambitious and like to take on a lot of things. So I think with this one, something that I would like to do is improve and review the efficiency of student services. So they are super, super helpful if a student is struggling, to talk to their academic reps or talk to their lecturers to get some extensions or just some support in general. But I think often they're not being utilized to their full capacity because students kind of diminish. They're like, oh, everyone also feels stressed, everyone's in the same boat. But obviously burnout is a way more intense version of that. So yeah, kind of proactive fix that.
And there's another theme that's come up as quite popular, is what would you do to ensure that both this year's freshers and next year's freshers would be able to integrate within the university community, especially with a much more scaled back Freshers Week that we had this year, sorry. Meg, what would you want to say?
So I would love to say that all the returners can come to Freshers Week next year, but I know that is not at all achievable in terms of capacity of venues and in terms of ensuring student safety. So I'm not going to promise that, but I do want to say that I think Freshers Week this year, I'm a bit biased considering I organised it, but I think there were a lot of the daytime events were all kind of really strong. The thing that students missed out on was the nightclub in Founders Hall every night. So I want to ensure that is recreated throughout the year next year for returners. So yeah, that's definitely something I want to do, and I can't promise that because I don't 100% know it will be achievable, but that's something I'm definitely keen to do. At the same time, I think this is across a lot of manifestos this year, but I do want to create Freshers Week events throughout the year, regular social events to ensure you can meet students from outside your household. Yeah, so.
And Helene, would you do something different?
No, that was actually one of my points as well. And I would really hope that it happens. Create kind of a citywide Freshers Week for the second years, because I know this year they haven't really had a lot of integration with town and they don't really know where to go, and they kind of want this community feeling again, kind of a redo of their Freshers Week in a sense. And not saying that you did a bad job, Mike, you did a very good job. Yeah, so maybe trying that, and then some, mixed events with the incoming first years and, the second years this year to create kind of a community throughout all the years.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We still have lots of questions, but we'll get back to all the answers to all of those questions on the SU Bar social media channels. So we will answer your questions, but now we're going to move on and ask our two candidates in 30 seconds. If you could change one thing at university, unlimited by resource or barriers, what would you do? And Meg, do you want to answer this one first?
Gosh, okay, well, I mean, if there's no barriers, I'd make it free. Because I think there's a lot of financial barriers. But if we're thinking a bit more reasonable, I want to make sure the university is 100% accessible to all disabled students, and that's not just students who are registered as disabled or have a disability action plan. That's all students, even if they don't self-identify as disabled and have mental health difficulties. Any student who needs support has access to support, the same support as if you're registered as disabled. And I could go on about this for ages, but I think 30 seconds.
We'll have to finish there. And Helene, how about you?
I would increase the capacity and sort of regularity, that's not a word, sorry, about sort of community building events. So like Snowball, things like that, that's where a lot of different groups come together and can kind of interact with each other. So regular ones like that, not just nights out, I feel like I'm talking a lot about nights out, but sort of more community building events throughout the year.
Thank you. And now, Helene, would you like to give us your closing statement?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening if you stuck this long. The one thing I just want to get across is that, I have a lot of, priorities in terms of financial support for students and tuition for international students, improving diversity, representation, allyship, and proactively and reactively responding to well-being and mental health. But if you want to check out my manifesto, there's a lot of more points on there. And Helene's here for you.
And Meg, would you like to have the final statement of this debate?
Yeah. So I've been in diversity support groups for 5 years, and over that time I've closely worked with a number of community officers, and I've been thinking about running for this role for a good number of years now. So each of my manifesto points has been crafted over that time and researched over that time, and I know that if I was elected, I could achieve every single one of my points in a year as community officer. And a lot of research has gone into the points. We haven't covered everything I'm thinking of, so do check out my full manifesto and my Instagram and Facebook, which is @MegCommunity.
Fantastic. So voting for officers starts midday at Tuesday, and voting for the NUS referendum is currently open. Join us again at 2 o'clock when we will be questioning those running for education and sport. Thank you again to all of our candidates, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.